At the beautiful Mandalay Casino and Resort at Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas, it's the Geary, Stein, and Steven show with your co-host Troy Geary, and yes, even Will Stein is here. And of course, your host, fresh off his one-man, legless tribute to Elvis Presley, the hardest working man in show business this week, Dave Stevens.
To have that jacket here, I look good in that Elvis Presley gold. Dave Stevens here on Radio Row one more time, and this is going to be fun because we talked about the game, but guess what? This is actually going to be on the sidelines for the game. I think this is your second year in a row. Fifth year in a row. So Laura Okmin is here joining us, Fox Sideline reporter, Westwood 1, and of course we have to welcome you officially to Las Vegas, of course, running Galvanize. And let's talk about that right out of the gate because it's so important what you do, the people you work with, all of the women and all of the people that are in your world. And take a look here. This was in Jacksonville, I believe. And just it's amazing the power that you're allowing women to have and the opportunities. So talk a little bit about that.
Look at you telling me that. Look at you of all that you do for so many and you telling me that. Like that's a pretty good layer right there. And how much I appreciate you saying that and how much I appreciate you doing what you do.
We'll talk about it. I mean,
Okay.
Women need opportunities. We know they do. We were seeing it in voting and abortion rights and all these things. So talk about it.
Yeah, because actually Galvanize is for women in sports, but at the end of the day, if you were in a boot camp or a workshop or a seminar, you would say this has nothing to do with sports because really it's all about helping women find their confidence and it's helping them find their confidence in themselves and in each other. And I just wanted to make sure as you know, when I was a young reporter, I had no confidence. My first Super Bowl was in 1992, and I was in over my head, and I came in with no confidence, and I left with less, if possible. And so I look back at that time here and just go, oh, I would have killed to have somebody to be able to say, help. You know, that I keep being told nobody cares what I say. I keep being told that nobody wants to hear what you say. Nobody wants to see you. Why are you here? And at some time, you know, you get this, Dave, that all those voices become your voice. And so I eventually, you know, started working in this business and started seeing all of these young women getting thrown in eventually, finally, right? Like there were no women, and then all of a sudden there's a ton of women. But what started happening was they were throwing them in. And so they were getting thrown in higher and faster than I could have handled. And so I luckily started seeing that when I was 40. So I was a little bit more protective than judgmental 2 years ago. And so I just started going, how can I help? How can I make sure that these young women aren't getting thrown into situations they're not ready for and then just at 24 years old being told you're not good enough when they were skipping all these steps. So Galvanize started really a dozen years ago with me just saying, how can I help? And it's turned into over 5,000 women in all over sports. We are in every area, in every sport, in every job, in every occupation. And it has been the purpose to my passion that I was lacking for so long in an industry that I love. I still do, but I really needed a purpose in it.
Well, you know, since I don't have legs, I say I'm leaving my legacy. So is this your legacy?
Yeah. I would like to think that I would like to think that, God forbid, if I didn't come home from the Super Bowl, I don't think anyone would mention that it was my fifth Super Bowl. I don't think anyone would mention how many I've called or how many I've been to or whatever I've done. I like to think that they would talk about how many women hopefully I've impacted and how many women hopefully I've helped bring together and made it a little bit easier and kinder for them than it was for me. So yes, I love the play on words, and absolutely that would be my legacy.
Well, how about, I mean, your career has spanned over 30 years. I hate to give that away, but it's very impressive. 30 at anything is impressive. And you've been around, you know, guys like Brian Urlacher. You take a look at, you know, on the sideline, and you've been from them when they were rookies to the Hall of Fame to the guys that are currently playing. Yeah. I mean, what is like your biggest highlights maybe for you that come to mind from your career?
Well, funny you're showing Brian Urlacher. So I have a group of rock star women here at Galvanize at Radio Row, but I did the same last year, and Pamela Urlacher was one of my young women. And so when I first met Brian, I'm a Chicago girl, so Brian was intimidating, and Brian did not talk to the media for a long time. And so it took me about 4 years to get in with Brian. And Brian would always say to me, "This is my bubble. Nobody gets in the bubble." And so for years, I'd be like, "I'm getting in the bubble. I'm getting in the bubble," and he'd be like, "You're not getting in the bubble." And then one day I got in the bubble. And what I said to him was, how did I get in the bubble? When I started teaching women, how do I teach them to see what I did that allowed you to bring me in? And he said, well, that's easy. You reach out 10 times and you ask for something once. And so Brian, it took a long time to get to know. And so what I would say is why you develop trust is because then he eventually trusted me with his daughter. So I've had Pamela in Galvanize. She was 17 years old before she went to college, and now she is in law school. She's one of my greatest leaders of Galvanize, and that's all because I earned the trust of Brian to not to say, "Hey, I've earned your trust. Give me a quote," but trust me with your greatest possession, which is your daughter. And so I think at this wonderful age I'm at right now, I I love to think um, that it's not so much the games that I think about now or the stories I've done. It's these meaningful conversations, and adding women to my life has changed it. Coaches give me their daughters now, and players come talk to me for their girlfriends or for their wives. And so I get to know them in a different way. And I'm really, really proud of that. Them in a
Yeah,
different
being
way.
proud of what
And
you've done and the
I'm really,
role model you
really
become.
proud of that.
How did you earn that respect? Because it was so tough. I've been in those locker rooms back when I was a kid, pup reporter in the 80s and 90s, and I saw athletes purposely go out of their way to drop
Drop a
towels,
towel.
to
Yeah.
make it uncomfortable, to do and to disrespect. Like, how long did it take you to gain that where they realized, hey, she's not going anywhere, she's tougher than we are?
You know, it took a minute, right? Like 30 something years ago, there weren't many of us in there. And so there were always those challenges. But what I would say is probably what I think about more is when I started not focusing on anything anybody else was doing but me was when I was 40. When I finally said, I don't really care what they're thinking, or I don't care how they feel about me being in here. I'm really good at what I do. And so that's earned me the place to be here. And that's earned me this conversation. And so I stopped being passive. I stopped being nervous. Did they want to talk to me? Or, oh God, am I the only woman? I started not comparing myself to other women, but am I the best in this room? And I had a boss early on in my career who I'm very thankful for that he hired 3 women very early on. It was a big deal at CNN Sports. And one day I went in and I compared myself to the other 2 women. And he said, did you just compare yourself to those 2? And I said, yeah. And he goes, that's funny. Why? And I said, well, we're the 3 women. And he said, I don't compare you at all to them. You're nothing like them. And he said, I compare you to, and he named a man. And I was like, oh, so it's not women are my competition. Everybody's my competition. I don't want to be the best woman broadcaster. I want to be the best broadcaster or the best whatever I'm doing. And so there were always those stories, but I think at the end of the day, getting older, getting wiser, getting, more grateful, all of that. What I would say is I don't remember when that started, when that ended. I just remember when I stopped caring about everybody else and just me.
I would think the biggest question everybody's asking you being a woman is, what do you think of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce? And, I don't look at it that way. I look at it as what a great opportunity for the league to open up to different fans that never knew about football and jerseys. And look at this other player, and that guy's cute, and that guy's a real good athlete. So are your thoughts that it was good for the league, or
Oh, it was outstanding. But it's outstanding for women. And everyone keeps making it like you have to pick. Like you're either a Swiftie or you're a football fan. I have an organization of over 5,000 women who are mostly Swifties and also are huge football fans and work in this space. So it's not an and or situation. And as always, misogyny creeps in and it comes in different ways. But we've never knocked all those years ago the Lakers for having Jack Nicholson on the floor, and we've never knocked anytime we saw Spike Lee on the court. All of that, and so we're always so proud of that, and that's part of the coolness of covering whatever game. And so the fact that we've been able to say how some men have said how threatened they are by a 4-second shot of Taylor Swift enjoying a Chiefs score because it's her boyfriend or just because it's the Chiefs is mind boggling to me and disappointing. But I will say this: I saw Travis last night, and the first thing I said to him when I saw him, I said, I haven't seen you all year, but I want to say something to you that I've said behind your back all season since you guys have been together. And it's 5 words, but I just have to say it. And he said, What? And I said, Love looks good on you. And he lit up when I said that. So at the end of the day, what I see, I fell in love late in my life with my husband. So I appreciate love and I appreciate finding love and understanding, when it's real and when it's good. I see a couple who's so in love, and I don't know how people are just like are annoyed by that.
Well, I don't. How is it any different from all of the sports bookings and fan duels? Again, because you're talking about a whole different type of fan and a whole different audience
Yeah.
of the purists. So I see it as a better thing because you're bringing in the non-fans that aren't going to bet, and you're opening up conversations, and then they start looking at other teams, and I didn't know that, and that kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
think it's been good.
You,
Sorry, let's
you're
move on.
growing dads and daughters having moments, right?
Absolutely.
However you get a moment with a young woman or a woman that you're with, that's a good thing. And we haven't talked about like the men that now are Taylor Swift fans.
Yeah, her songs are good, catchy. I mean, come on. There's very few good artists now that put out music. You got Bruno Mars,
Yeah.
Dua Lipa, a few people, but it's great that as long as they don't break up and she puts out 3 or 4 albums about him, that would,
I'm rooting for those kids.
Okay, sidelines. And help our audience that we have so many new people around the world and everywhere. What does a sideline reporter do? You're not just sitting there watching the game, and how can you get information and things that are going on?
Because people kind of forget sometimes that the second word in that title is reporter. And so that's no different if you are covering a game or if you're covering the White House or if you're covering an event you're at. It's just, that you're down there and you're the eyes and the ears that people don't see. The guys in the booth do not get that energy down there. The guys in the booth, we have cameras everywhere, but I do radio and TV. So it's a little different. Sometimes you truly are the eyes and the ears. But there's things down there that nobody else can see unless you tell them. And watching things like body language and watching, I can tell you what teams are very close. I can tell you how they connect. I can tell you how they communicate. I can tell you who likes each other. I can tell you how teams will feel about their coaches or about each other. And I can't tell you the amount of coaches after a game, if I've had them week 2 and I see them week 4 and they go, What'd you think of us down there? How were we communicating? How'd you like, there's such cool things that we see that are beyond injuries, and that's our most important job is making sure that we report on that. But also, the same way if you just rolled around here and you just sat and watched people all day, you learn a lot of things. And so it's a privilege of a job of being down there and earning the trust of people to be sitting there watching them and watching their every move, talking to a coach at halftime and being the only person on the planet who gets to go up and go, what's going on? And so it is such a fun job, and it is also exhausting because this year turned into another debate of what is a sideline reporter's value, and we could do that for pretty much many jobs. But that's the frustrating thing about this role because it was never a woman's role. A sideline reporter was never debated before. There's some really good men who are great reporters on the sidelines, but it's kind of turned a little bit more into the woman's role. And not surprisingly, there's been a little misogyny that slipped there as well. So
Well, you didn't need someone coming out and saying they were making up stuff on the sidelines.
that
either.
was the worst. It's
I'm
hard.
not even going to say the name. I just feel like it was
Yeah, it's
a
tough.
detriment to the experience and what you've tried to earn. And then they're going to go, does she do it?
That was tough. That was a tough one because it's coming from inside the house, and so that's a different punch in the gut that that has left a lot of us having to talk about it again, which is frustrating. But what I would tell you is, most people do not do that, and most people really understand the privilege of those conversations down there.
You've got great coworkers at Westwood 1,
I
Fox
do.
2, but this is the game we're talking about on Sunday on the sidelines. I know you're not going to make a prediction or have favorites, but what matchups are you looking forward to the most?
Honestly, the thing I'm looking forward to the most seeing is I had the Niners for I was on the sideline for the last 2 playoff games, and they did not come out like they look like themselves. And so really more than anything is I want to see if they're going to have another slow start, because to come from behind 17 points to the Kansas City Chiefs is going to be very difficult. And so I would like to see, with a little bit of time off, what they've done to fix that, and offensively and defensively, if they come out immediately and make some stops and get their offense in a rhythm, which they weren't able to do early the first 2 weeks.
Well, great. I know you got to go. It was fun having time with you. Also, we want to make sure we give you, as a guest, this phone charger you can keep on your side, on your pocket, so in case you gotta, find out about concussion protocol. That is brought to us by our great friends at Serendipity Yacht Cruises and Events, and so thank you for being a part of this. Best of luck in it.
You're the
I
best.
hate that we only see each other once a year, but we follow each other. We know what we're doing, and God bless you.
God bless you. Any time with you is a good time. Thank you for having
Thank
me.
you, Laura. All right, get out of here. Go do your next thing. This is Dave Stevens here on Radio Row. We're going to wrap it up and throw things down to Troy sometime. Don't forget our 100th episode tonight at Bell. Still a long day. All right, folks. We'll see you maybe in an hour, maybe two. I'm not sure. Take care, folks. Follow us on all social media platforms.
Laura, who's one in the box?
Thank you for watching the Geary, Stein, and Steven show from Super Bowl 58. You can watch all of the episodes at yourhometv.com or download the Your Home TV app on Roku. Follow the boys on all social media and podcast apps.